Hello. Well, this would have been week 6 of my trek through Isaiah 40 through 66, but I'll be honest, my enthusiasm was waning, and it didn't seem like those who were watching were that enthusiastic. So I've decided to shift a little bit and had a couple patrons respond that this was okay with them. And so what I want to do, and I don't know how long this will take, but I want to continue my trek through Old Testament passages. So I did the book of Acts. That took 35 weeks, went through the whole of the Greek of Acts. And I was doing that in Isaiah 40 through 66. But I think I'm teaching a course called the Theologies of the Old and New Testaments. And I thought it might be fun if I oriented my podcasts and my videos, still Hebrew videos, but orient them more around biblical theology. This way, every verse I do will be meaty in some way because it will relate directly to, let's start off with a theology of the Old Testament. And then at some point, we'll switch to Greek again and do theology of the New Testament. And as I was doing, I'll do a video on Monday going over Greek letters. That's what this is. So the passage you're looking at right now is Exodus 6:3. So I'll do the letters and the vowels of Exodus 6:3. And then on Friday, I'll go over the grammar of this. Now, I decided to shift from kind of the bare bones Hebrew text that I was doing, and I think it's okay. Surely, if you are a representative of interlinearbible.com or Bible Hub, and you don't want me doing this, please tell me and I'll stop. But I do think that it might be helpful to most people who would watch this to be able to see the full interlinear here as I work. So today is our first venture in the theology of the Old Testament. Now, one thing that I hope I get across to my master students, I teach this course for the Master of Practical Theology degree in the School of Theology and Ministry at IWU. Going in order in the biblical text, there's a place for that. That's the way I first read the Old Testament. But in terms of organizing the meaning, organizing the meaning of the Old Testament doesn't necessarily need to start with say Genesis 1. Now, it is the creation, and the creation is significant. I'll get there early in this venture. But what I argued with my biblical theology students last week as we started this course is that the central, and maybe I'll correct this, but as I'm thinking right now, the most important thing about God in the Old Testament is that God is the God of Israel. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm sorry. This is the podcast. There will be a podcast, Lord willing, on Wednesday. So I'm going to stop there. And I'm going to go ahead and do what this video is supposed to be about, which is the Hebrew letters. So let's go ahead. Now, if you've been following along in Isaiah, you may have some sense of the letters and vowels by now. So I'm going to I'll say the letter or the vowel and try to pause in between so you can very quickly freeze the video to try to guess it on your own. And then when you've guessed it, keep going. So let's begin. This is Exodus 6:3, what I consider to be a very important text on God in the Old Testament. Okay, so this first letter is a vav. This vowel is a kamatz. This letter is an aleph. This vowel is a sere. This consonant is a resh. This vowel is a kamatz. And this consonant is an aleph, except here it's not a consonant. It's being used as a piggyback. After a long vowel, which kamatz is a long A, the aleph is quiescent. It just kind of goes silent. So this is, to pronounce it, va-e-ra. Va-e-ra. Okay, next word. We'll talk about the meaning. And we'll talk about this, well, hold on that thought. Let me tell you what at least some of it is right now. So right above the Hebrew is what's called a transliteration. That's an attempt to find a rough equivalent of the Hebrew letter in English. Now, I'm not doing W's for vavs. Modern Hebrew pronounces the vav as a v. Now, the older Hebrew, the older pronunciation they taught pronounced it as a w. So that would be wa a ra, which is the transliteration here. But I'm not doing it that way. But that's the vav, and of course Hebrew goes from right to left. So that's the long A of the kamats. That apostrophe represents the aleph. Then that's a sere, which is a long E. I don't transliterate it with a hat. I transliterate it with a long mark myself, a long E, even though it's pronounced A. Go figure. I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of quirky stuff. You just deal with it. You don't question. Don't ask questions. Just keep moving. There's the resh, and then the long A, and they did not transliterate, because it's a vowel letter, they did not transliterate the second aleph. So this is the transliteration right above the word. At the top, you have the Strong's number. So Strong's H, if you go to Blue Letter Bible and click on the pronunciation of the basic word, 7,200. That's the way the guy sounds. I don't know who it is. We looked it up once in a class. But that's, so when James Strong alphabetized the Hebrew the Hebrew words in the Old Testament, that shouldn't be 7,200. What in the world is that? That's weird, because the word actually begins with an aleph. Maybe that's the vav. Wow, what's going on there? I'll come back on Friday, Lord willing, and tell you what's going on with that number. Of course, you can click on it. You can go there to interlinearbible.org and click on this number, and you'll have the answer. I'll do it too. Okay, this letter is a aleph. This vowel is a sagol, a short E. This letter is a lamed. That dash is called a makaf. It's like a dash. Okay, next word. And of course, you have a rough translation underneath, which goes from right to left. This bottom bit is the analysis. I'll talk about that more on Friday. Okay, so this is aleph, patak. This consonant is a bait. This vowel is a shavah. And as we've been saying, a patak is a short A. So I would have put a little light mark under it, maybe. Actually, maybe I wouldn't have. So there's the transliteration of a patak. Because this is a short vowel, a shavah, a shavah after a short vowel it closes the syllable. So it's a what's called a silent schwa. It says this syllable is now closed for business. So we pronounce this av. And a bait without a dot in it is a v sound. It doesn't have a dagesh in it. So it's av. What letter is this? Resh. What vowel is this? Kamat, long A. What consonant is that? Hey. What vowel is that? Kamat, long A. Then this is a grammatical or an accent mark. I don't even know what it's called. And then this is a final mem. So we have av, ra, ham. Let me tell you what that accent is called. Well, sorry to say that accent is so obscure, my Hebrew textbook doesn't even tell me. I'll try to figure it out before we die. Okay, next, same word. Notice, same word. I appeared to Abraham. This is the word to again. What consonant is this? Aleph, vowel, sagol, consonant, lamed, punctuation mark, makaf. Okay, next word, to, consonant, yod, vowel, hirik. It's a short E here, so short I here, so they haven't put anything on the top. Tzadeh, silent shva. Remember, after a short vowel, the shva is silent. It closes the syllable. Consonant, vowel, consonant. That's a short syllable. It's closed, and so we have yitz. This consonant is a chet, which is a hey. It's transliterated with a hey with a dot under it, and then kamat, and then kof. So we have yitzkak, which is the Hebrew for Isaac. So now we have another L, repetition of L. Vav, or wow, depending on how you pronounce it. Shava. Now, this is a vocal shva. At the beginning of a syllable, a shava at the beginning of a syllable is a vocal shva. And since this is the beginning of the word, it is a vocal shva. So it's v. Notice that they transliterate with an upside down E. Va, Aleph, Sagol, Lamed, Makef, V'el. This is a Saluk, I think, accent. Anyway, notice how that the accents kind of point to each other. They point what goes with what. They point what direction. So this is pointing kind of, see the slide, that accent's kind of pointing back here. It says El Yaakov goes together. Okay, so Yod, Patak, Ayin. This is a Ketef Patak. It's a very short A. So that's why I'm going to go ahead and follow their transliteration with the short mark to do the Ketef Patak. Consonant is Kof. That's a holum, a long O. And a final bait. Now this bait, like this bait, doesn't have a dagesh in it. It doesn't have a dot in it. This one does. Notice that with the dot, it's translated as a b, and it's pronounced b, with a b, and it's pronounced b. But this one, just like this one, because it doesn't have the dagesh, they put a line under it in the transliteration, and it's pronounced v. So ya, a, kov. Okay, Jacob. Okay. What consonant? Bait. And because it has a dagesh in it, it's what's called a bagad kafat letter. And the bagad, the B means this is one of those letters that if it has a dagesh, a dot in it at the beginning of a word or the beginning of a syllable, then it means use the b instead of the va, is what it means. It's called a hardening dagesh because it hardens the sound. A light dagesh, a dagesh lane, or a small dagesh. What is that? A dagesh katon. Okay, so a bait, shava. It's a vocal shva because it's the beginning of a word. Aleph, sere, lamed, ba'el. So that's in God, something like that. El means God. It's the generic word for God, like any God. It's not referring to the God necessarily, although it could be used. So the word God is not God's name. God's name is YHWH or YHVH. It's not El. That's a generic word for a God. This accent is called a munach, and it indicates basically, I don't know what it indicates. I mean, it's basically saying the word that comes after me, see how it's kind of pointing the word after me? The word that comes after me goes with me. And the word after is sheen, patak. Notice how the sheen, the SH is sometimes transliterated. Dalet, bagad. It's a bagad kafat letter. Here, because it's after a short vowel, anytime you have a dagesh after a short vowel, it must be doubling. Because a short vowel has to be in a closed syllable, so the shad is one syllable, and then the die is the next one. So you have two dalets, basically, dalet. That's called a doubling dagesh in this case. I know it's a doubling dagesh because it follows a short vowel. So another word for it is a doubling dagesh is a strong dagesh, a dagesh forte, or a large dagesh, a dagesh gadol. Different ways to call the same thing. So this is El Shaddai, El Shaddai. Anyway, God Almighty. Some debate over what Shaddai means, and welcome to the podcast on Wednesday. Okay, so this is a vav, but because it has a dot in it, it's called a sharuk. So it's oo is how you pronounce that. Oo, and see how they've translated it. I would actually put a hat over this one because it's using a piggyback letter. Oo, sheen, shava. And this is a vocal shva because it's after a long vowel, not a short vowel. Usha, mi, mem, hirik yod. And hirik yod is a vowel combination. The yod isn't a consonant there. So notice it didn't transliterate the yod. That hat is what I use. I use that hat like they do when you have a vowel piggybacking on a yod or a vav or some sort of consonant. Okay, I talk about that in stuff I've put on Patreon. Okay, here's the name of God. I always feel a little hesitant to say the name of God. Jews apparently stopped saying the name of God about 300 BC. Even by the time of Jesus, pretty much no one said the name of God. So I'm always a little hesitant, but I think they did at the time of Exodus. I think that's a much later development. And so just for the sake of, so Jews pronounce this, what they do is they say Adonai. And I want to do that generally. Once I've clarified what this word is, I want to kind of transition to saying Adonai instead of the name of God. But it probably was pronounced Yahweh, YHVH or YHWH. Okay. This is Lamed, Cholam, Aleph, Lo, which means not. And then the next one, Nun, Cholam Vav. So this is again, I don't know why they do the long mark. I would do it with a hat because it's using a piggyback letter to transliterate it. So no, Noad. It's interesting that it seems to have a little. Is that a patak? It looks like a patak. Noad. Why would there be a patak there? I don't know. Maybe it's maybe it doesn't belong. That's weird. I would have normally thought that this was node, which is the way they have it. Node T. Nun, Cholam Vav, Dalet, Ayin, Tav, Hirik Yod. So this is a Cholam Vav. If that's a patak, it's a patak. I don't know. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's a stray accent mark. It doesn't make any sense. It's not transliterated. We have Ayin. And then this is a, oh, I know what it is. Sorry. It's just misplaced because of the accent. It doesn't go before the Dalet. Oh, I'm stupid. It's Dalet, Patak, Ayin. So there it is, right there. Sorry. So no, da, ti. So this is a silent shava following the patak. No, da, ti. And that's a hirik yod there at the end and a tav. Okay, with the hardening dagesh. It's not a doubling dagesh there because it's the beginning of a syllable. T. Lastly, we have a lamed, kamatz, hey, segol, final mem, and a sof pasuk at the end, the colon. Okay, lahem, to them. Okay, great. Well, so we begin our new journey in biblical theology, and this is our verse for the week. So today we did the letters. Wednesday I'll do a podcast talking about the meaning or in the broader sense. And then on Friday, we'll look at the grammar of this particular verse. Does that sound like a plan? So for those of you who are my patrons, I hope to continue working on my inductive Bible study textbook on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. So if you're my patron, you'll be able to read me as I continue to work. I'm about halfway. So I think I need motivation to keep doing it. Okay, thank you. We'll see you on Wednesday, Lord willing.